Oh, yeah. Did you eat something? Let me give you something. Being live stream. Got it.
What?
Do you want to eat something?
No, I'm going to eat. I'm going to Dominic.
I didn't have any. Oh my goodness. I didn't shut down very early. I forgot.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. This is how to jumpstart your memory. We're going to start in 1 second because I know some more people are hopping on. So let's just give everyone 1 more minute to hop on and we're going to get started. Thank you for joining us. I'm super excited to share this with you tonight. You're going to love this. Let me just close my YouTube. Okay. Okay. What time is it? Yeah, we're going to get started. Hopefully more people will join us. Welcome, welcome. I am Rena Yudkowsky, and thank you for joining us today. I want to thank Leisure Chateau and Pessy. Pessy should be on soon if she's not on already. Thank you, Pessy and Leisure Chateau Rehab and Nursing Center for sponsoring this presentation today. Leisure Chateau provides educational programs to many adult communities. So I want to personally thank them for bringing you all here today. So what are we doing today? The topic is how to jumpstart your memory. I don't know what you thought that meant, but I'm going to tell you what it means. The goal for today is to help you, to empower you, to give you something that's going to help you shift your mindset about memory that's actually going to affect your memory. So it's not techniquey. What we're doing today is not techniquey. It's much more about mindset shift and memory, and it's very powerful and very important. I'm going to introduce myself if I forgot to do that. No pun intended. I'm not allowed to use the word forgot. You know that, right? So I'm Rena Yudkowsky. I'm a geriatric social worker and memory coach. I teach online memory improvement courses to those over 50. I will tell you more about a free webinar that I'm doing later this week that I'm going to invite you to, and a little bit more about my course at the end of this program. I am the head of Memory Matters, and I know people are going to keep joining us. So thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to get started now. So today we are talking about how to jumpstart your memory. And what we're doing is we're talking about a powerful mindset shift, something that's going to help us when we have a lot of negative thoughts about our memory, or when we're scared or worried about what's going on with our memory. So the reason another title for this talk is the one bad habit you're doing that's harming your memory. And I'll tell you right now, spoiler alert, it has to do with your self-talk. Your self-talk is what you're saying to yourself when you can't remember something. So it might sound like this. What's my password again? What's my PIN number? Ugh, what's wrong with me? I'm too old for this. Or I'm such an idiot. Or why can't I remember her name? Or I'm so bad at names. What does that do to us and our ability to remember? So before we go into that, if you have a pen and paper, I want you to jot down something. You might want to take notes because I'm going to give you an acronym later. So you might want to get a pen and paper if you don't have one in front of you. Before we go forward, I want you just to think about something. I want you to make a list of your worries and concerns about your memory. And you don't have to share this with us. I'm not going to ask you to share it. I want you to write down whether you have trouble remembering names, words, lists, numbers, maybe where you put your glasses, your phone, whether you took your medicine today, whether you turned off the stove. Take a minute just to write down your memory concerns and even your fears. And you don't have to share this with anyone, but it's important to get it in writing. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. So what you're answering is, what do you say to yourself when you forget? When you have a senior moment, let's call it, what do you say to yourself? What thoughts go through your head? What fears come into mind? This awareness is very important because it affects what we do next. And I'm going to tell you what to do about it soon. Don't worry, we'll get there. But first, I want the awareness. What do you say to yourself when you forget something? Do you panic? Does it fear? I'm going to bet that some of you have a fear of getting dementia. Perhaps you're a caregiver or are a caregiver for someone who has dementia. And I bet there's some fears related to that. That's my guess. Okay. keep your notes in front of you. We're going to work from there. So the awareness of what's going on when you forget is very important, because we're going to work with that awareness. Okay. And what fear is driving that self-talk? When we say negative things to ourselves, what fear is driving that self-talk? Are we operating out of a strength perspective? Like, I got this, I can do this. Or are we operating out of that negative self-talk? Here's an amazing saying. And I heard this from Jim Quick. Most of what I'm teaching today is actually I learned from Jim Quick. Your brain is a supercomputer. Okay, your brain is a supercomputer. You have unbelievable abilities to remember. Your self-talk is the program your computer runs on. So your brain is a supercomputer. Your self-talk is the program that it runs on. So if your self-talk is always saying negative things, I'm too old, I'm dumb, I can't remember, I'm not good at names, I have a terrible memory, then that is how your computer is going to operate. That's the program. But, a second, we're going to mute whoever's making noise here. Okay. But if we can change that program, if that program can be one of, I've got the techniques to do this. I know what to do when I can't remember a PIN, a password, or whether I took my medicine. I know exactly what to do. Then that's a very different script. That's a very different feeling than I'm such an idiot, I can't do this, or I'm too old for this. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about now, is how to change that script. I want to tell you about a story, how I did not go into a negative place because I knew what was going on. Some of you might have heard me say this story before, because I tell it all the time. So if I've said it before to you, I apologize, but I speak in a lot of different places. So we have a mixture of people here. I was making lasagna one day and I was talking on the phone to my sister-in-law in America. And
hello.
I was not paying attention to, I'm going to mute you because I hear noise. I was not paying attention to what I was doing. I was talking on the phone while I was making lasagna. And then later that day, my husband calls to me from the kitchen and says, Rena, are you going crazy? And I said, I don't know why. I might be, but why are you asking? And he says, well, I found the open jar of marinara sauce in the closet instead of the fridge. So I laughed and I said, I know exactly why I did that. I did not go into a negative place of, oh my gosh, I'm losing it. What's wrong with me? Because I was aware. I knew that I was distracted when I made the lasagna. I knew that I was not thinking about where to put the open jar of marinara sauce. So I knew that that was not a sign of dementia for me, because I had the awareness. I knew I was distracted and I laughed about it. Now, there are times where there is something more serious going on. And if that's the case, please get in touch with me. Many of you might have seen my normal versus abnormal checklist that I send out to people that join my email list. If you haven't, I can send it to you. There are times that's normal and there's abnormal memory loss. And you want to make sure that if there's something more serious going on, that you're getting the help you need. And you feel free to get in touch with me at a later date. I do memory assessments. I can also refer you to people. But what I'm talking about here today is normal memory loss, okay? So, and what we do when we have that senior moment. So when you panic, if I would have panicked in that story that I told you, one second, we need to mute people. If I would have panicked in that story that I told you, what would have happened? I would not have been able to laugh. I would not have been able to say, oh, I know I was on the phone and I was distracted. So it's about, what do we say to ourselves? What's the script that's going through our head? Is it a fear-based script? Now, I'm not judging. If you have a parent or grandparent with dementia and that is your fear, it is real. I am not making fun of that. It is a real fear. However, what I teach in my courses that's so important and empowering is that just because you have a family member or two with it, and even if you have the gene, there is so much we believe today that we can mitigate that genetic component. In fact, the neurologists say that 90% of the cases are not genetic. So there are 10% of the cases that are genetic, but there is so much power given today to lifestyle factors. I'm not saying that to guilt anyone. I'm saying that to empower, that if we exercise and eat properly and do all the right things, social stimulation, cognitive stimulation, there's so much that's in our power. Now, ultimately, we know Hashem's in charge of how long we live and our quality of life. But What is our hishtadlus? If we sit on the couch all day and eat sugar, our brain's probably not going to operate or age as healthfully as if we get moving and eat lots of vegetables. Let's just keep it simple. Okay. There's a lot more to it than that, but let's just keep it simple like that. Obviously, there's a lot more factors, and I teach these factors in my upcoming course, which I'll tell you about soon. So what are we going to do with that negative self-talk? If I meet you on the street and I say my name and you say to me, oh, I'm never going to remember your name. By the way, I do not let anyone get away with that anymore when I meet them on the street. People used to say that to me and I say, oh, okay. No way. You do not have a bad memory. There is no such thing as a good memory or a bad memory. It's trained or untrained. It's like me saying to you, I have a weak bicep muscle. But would you tell me? You'd say, Rena, pick up some weight and work out your muscles, right? So the mind, don't keep saying I have a bad memory, because if you tell me I can't remember your name, I'm not good at names. What is the chance that you're going to remember the name of the next person you meet? Very, very little, because you don't believe in yourself. And here's the next really important quote. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. So I believe that I can remember 20, 30, 40 names of people, and I can. I also have the technique to do it. If you say, I can't remember your name, then you can't remember my name because you don't even believe in your capability. This is not just true of memory. This is true of every area of life when it comes to not just confidence, but believing that we actually can do it. I do really believe that I can remember 30 names. You might not because you don't have the technique. But if you walk around saying, I can't remember anything and I have a terrible memory, and guess what? Then guess what? You can't remember. So what do we do? What do we do? I'm assuming that most of us have this bad habit of saying, I have a bad memory, or I can't remember names, or I'm too old for that. What are we going to do with this? So here's an acronym that's going to help us. And this is based on something that I learned from Jim Quick. It's Abracadabra. What is Abracadabra? We use that like magic, right? But it's actually Aramaic. Abracadabra. Abracadabra. I create abra, like from Evra, Kidabra, as I speak. Abracadabra is Aramaic. And I never knew this before. It's I create as I speak. So like what I say comes to happen, right? So if I say I am bad at names, then I really don't have a chance of remembering names. I'm using it in this example, obviously. So we're going to take the abracadabra, and we're going to talk about how to use the first four letters of Abra, A-B-R-A, to help us with our self-talk. What are we going to do with it? So first, I'm going to tell you two things not to do with it. Two things we're not going to do with our self-talk is fight it. If I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant, don't think of a pink elephant, what do you think of? A pink elephant, right? So don't fight it because it's there, but you also don't want to fight for it. Meaning a lot of people fight for their limitations. They're like very insistent that they can't remember anything. So don't fight for your limitation. If you fight for it, you get to keep it. Like if you convince yourself that you're bad at names, then that's what you're going to be. So you don't want to fight it because what you resist persists. But you don't want to fight for it. You don't want to fight for that limitation. You don't want to that's not like your banner that you're proud of. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to put this up so that you can take notes. Okay. Abracadabra. So we're taking the ABRA and each thing stands for something. So the A, you can take notes also. I'm going to put it up on here and you can follow along. The A stands for acknowledge. I'm going to type it up. Let's try to spell it right. Acknowledge. So acknowledge that your self-talk is there. We can't fight it. We're going to acknowledge that it's there. And don't resist it, because if you fight too hard, you're just fighting yourself, right? But we're going to do something else instead. So the A is acknowledge. Acknowledge that it's there. The B is, second, let's see if I can. The B stands for breathe. That's with an E at the end, right? Yeah. Breathe. Now, what does taking a deep breath do for you? I always say the first thing you do when you cannot recall something, whether it's your passport, whether it's your phone number, whether it's your name or someone else's name, take a deep breath. And then another deep breath. Because why? What does it do? Our brain needs oxygen. Wait, we need to, hold on, we need to mute. 1 second. I can't see who that is. I need to mute people. So can everyone mute themselves? Yeah, I got it. Okay. Breathe. When we breathe, it centers us. It makes us be able to focus. It calms us down. And then we don't have that panicky feeling. So when you start to panic, when you can't remember something, you're closing up, you're clenching and then closing up everything tightens. That is not going to help you remember. You got to breathe. You got to calm everything down, open everything up, and really just get centered. Your brain needs oxygen in order to remember what you need. So you're going to breathe. You're going to breathe in. You're going to breathe in what you want. So it's taking a couple deep breaths. This is so powerful. I tell this story about one of my students in Beitar. She was in her 80s and I was teaching this technique in my class, and she went walking with her 19-year-old grandson, and they were trying to remember the name of the neighbor, and neither of them could come up with the name of the neighbor. So this lady's in her 80s. She's walking with her 19-year-old grandson, and neither of them could remember the name of the neighbor they're thinking of. And then all of a sudden she took a deep breath, and boom, it came to her like this. She came back the next week and told me that she was tickled pink that she was able to remember before her 19-year-old grandson. And all she did was take a few deep breaths. That's all it took for her to remember what she was trying to remember. She was like, it works. I'm like, what works? She's like, breathing. I'm like, that's amazing. It's like, I never taught it as a technique before that. But once she told me that story, I was like, it's a technique now. The first thing you do when you cannot recall something that you're trying to recall is do deep breaths. Okay. Very, very, very powerful. So the A is acknowledge that your self-talk is there. B is breathe. R is release. We are releasing the negative. We're releasing what we don't want. We don't want to be telling ourselves that we can't remember. We don't want to walk around feeling like we can't age confidently. We don't want to walk around feeling like I don't have any techniques to remember. So it's releasing the negativity. You can't lead a positive life with a negative mind. You gotta make a switch. You exhale that breath and let go of all the limitations that are in your head that are limiting you. And the helplessness. It feels very helpless when you can't remember something that you really want to remember. So when you breathe out, you breathe and then you release. You let go of the negativity. And then the A is the important one. The A is align. Align with what you do want. You're aligning a new phrase, a new mantra, a new mindset shift. So you're using your imagination to create something new. And it could sound like this. I have a great memory. I learn things quickly. I have a lifetime of experience to dwell on in order to remember this. I have techniques in my back pocket. Okay, wait, I'm hearing background noise. 1 second. Can everyone mute themselves, please? Thank you. Okay. Sorry, it's just distracting. So you're aligning with a positive mantra. So every time you start to think of, I can't remember this. No, I am not too old. I have a lifetime of experience to dwell on this. And you can create your own alignment, whatever works for you. I'm just giving you some ideas that I think help, but it can be your own mantra, your own strategy. I can learn techniques that will help. I have techniques in my bag that will help. I'm going to take a deep breath and this is going to come to me. How different does that feel than how we started? When I started, I said, I'm an idiot. I can't remember this. What's wrong with me? I'm getting dementia. Why can't I remember? That versus, I got this. It'll come to me. I'm going to take a deep breath. I can learn new techniques. I have the technique I need. It will come to me soon. I'm going to give myself a chance. That feels so different. That is such a different mindset than the other one. And as you can understand, as with all things, the positive mindset is what's going to lead to the results that you want. I'm just making sure I spelled acknowledge right. Why does that? Did I spell it right? ACKNO. Yeah. Okay. It didn't look right to me. So abracadabra, magic. I speak. I create as I speak. Kadabra as I speak. And it stands for A, acknowledge. Acknowledge that that negative self-talk is there. We're not going to fight it off. We can't fight ourselves. B, breathe into it. And when you breathe in the good stuff, and then R, release. You release the negativity, release the negative feelings, you release the panic that comes along and the fear, right? We have an awareness that it's coming from fear. We're releasing that. And the A is we align. We use our imagination to align to something new and different. And you can't just say it. You really have to believe it. You gotta live this new mindset shift. It takes some practice, but it's a new belief and it's gonna feel good on you. I'm going to stop sharing for 1 minute because I want to just get from you the input. I want to hear from you. What would that new alignment sound like? I give you a couple mantras or phrases that you can realign yourself with. But I'm curious if anyone has something they want to add to that realigning. You can unmute yourself and tell me what would that sound like for you, when you realign yourselves to a positive mindset shift. Anyone want to give us some ideas? If anyone wants to speak, you can unmute and tell us. Anybody? It's a quiet bunch here today. Going to make me do all the talking? Okay, I'll keep going if no one wants to talk. Kaya, you want to say something? No? Okay. Mindy, you have any ideas? Wait, Mindy, you're muted. Unmute yourself. I'm going to ask to unmute.
Okay, I could say something.
Yeah, go for it.
I always say will come to me soon. That's something I always say, but it doesn't really come so soon.
So sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But saying it is the first step in it happening.
Yeah. I never think all the negative stuff. I always think positive, but it just doesn't help.
Okay. It does help because if you thought all the negative stuff, it for sure wouldn't come back to you. So sometimes it comes back in a minute and sometimes it takes an hour and sometimes it takes a day. But usually does it come back to you? I'm going to ask you. Usually does it come back to you at some point?
Later on, maybe
later on, right. So we have to be patient. Good point. We have to be patient. What if we said to ourselves, I'm going to be patient with myself. Oh, that feels different, right? That feels different than I'm such an idiot. What's wrong with me?
Sounds good.
I'm going to be patient with myself. Try that on. Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we get older, we have a lot of experience and wisdom to draw from. And we have to be patient with ourselves. Such a good point, Mindy. Thank you. Okay, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I said everything about that piece. 1 second. So when you go through this process of the acknowledge, breathe, release, and align, then what do you have? Then you have like a renewed belief in yourself, right? You have a renewed belief in yourself that then you can remember anything you want because now it feels different. Now it's like, I got this, especially if you have some techniques, right? Some of you have seen some of my other talks. Some of you were on probably my Train Your Brain, right? Was anyone here on the Train Your Brain workshop where we talked about brain exercises and we talked about cognitive stimulation? And when we do things that grow new brain cells, like exercise, and we feel empowered to use it or lose it, right? When we choose to use it rather than lose it, and we do the things that we know are going to grow new brain cells and empower us to remember better, or we call on those techniques that you have or that you'll learn, then what? Then we have a new belief system. We have a new mindset shift, right? That it's a whole new. Second, let's mute. Then we have a whole new system to believe in ourselves. So that's the first step. The reason I call this Jumpstart Your Memory, or the reason the other name for this talk is the one bad habit you have to change to help your memory, is because it all starts from that. I could teach you all the techniques in the world, but if you walk around saying, I can't remember your name, then you can't remember my name. Or I'm bad at names. So many people say I'm bad at names, and they believe that. But whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are right. So it has to start with the belief that you can do it. Then what? Then you say, okay, but I don't have the techniques. I don't know how to. Okay, good question. So then we have techniques. I teach the techniques for names, numbers, lists of items. He's got on Wednesday. Those of you that have made shopping lists and then left it at home, has that happened to anyone here? Yeah. And you leave your list at home and then what do? You can't remember anything on your list. So there's a really, really fun technique for lists. I'm actually going to be doing that on Wednesday. So I'm inviting you actually to another, let me just put it on the screen. I'll share it with you. I'm inviting you to a totally free Zoom webinar. It's can you remember this list of 20 random words? And I'm going to teach you how to do it. This Wednesday at 10 o'clock Eastern. And when I send out the replay to this, all of you that registered are going to get the replay to this. At the bottom of that email is the link to Wednesday's talk, totally free Zoom. We're going to do lists then. I really need a whole session to do that, which is why it's a separate session. But what we're doing today is really the precursor to any techniques. You'll understand that before I can teach you any techniques, you got to get rid of the negative self-talk. You got to stop saying, I can't remember names. I can't remember a list of items. I don't know how to do that. I'm too old. You are not too old. I was in Yerushalayim teaching this to a group of Holocaust survivors. So those are people in their 90s, basically, right? And one lady said, I'm too old for this. And then I turned to the other ladies and gentlemen in the room, and I said, do you all agree with that? And they said, no. And these people are in their 90s. And they said, no, we are not too old for this. But it's all here. The fountain of youth is where? Fountain of youth is between your ears. The fountain of youth is between your ears. That is a quote from Dr. Daniel Amen. It's the beginning of his book. Dr. Daniel Amen is a neuropsychiatrist who works with brain health. And he starts his book by saying, the fountain of youth is found between your ears, right here. Okay. Now, are there hard times? Yes. Is there pain? Yes. And when you're in a lot of pain, it's hard to remember things because pain affects our ability to remember. If you had COVID, I hope no one does now. You might remember that you had brain fog and memory issues. Some people are still suffering long COVID with that. But techniques help. When you learn the techniques, it helps. But before the techniques, this is the basis. This is to jumpstart your memory, is understanding that the mindset shift, understanding that what we say to ourselves is the program that our supercomputer, our brain runs on. Okay. That self-talk is vital and integral. As long as you're walking around saying, I can't do it, I'm too dumb, I'm too old, I can't do it, that's the program. But now we have something different. Now we have the Abra. We can acknowledge, we can breathe, we can release, and we can align with something different. Okay. Abracadabra, the magic of self-talk. And as most of you know, this is not just about memory. This applies actually in every area of our life. And I'm sure as you have aged, you've felt this and witnessed it and used it in a lot of ways. So that's the basis. Then we go on to the techniques. So on Wednesday, please God, we'll do lists. You're welcome to join me. You'll be getting the link to that in an email tomorrow with a replay of this. What I want to talk about now, and then I want to talk about my course for a minute, and then I'm going to give you a really fun brain exercise that I just learned, and I just learned it, so I probably have not shared it with any of you yet. It's really fun. Chaya, are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. No, you keep saying about remembering names. So I had a speech teacher in college, and I always use this. He said, when someone tells you their name, like let's say you ask someone your name, they say Rifki, and like 30 seconds later, I can't remember. So he said, you repeat it out loud. You go Rifki Cohn, you say it out loud. It's active learning. And I find that helps me a lot. Now when someone says their name, I go, oh, so you're Rifki Cohn. And I find that it's a great tool to remember someone's name.
Amazing, Chaya. And I would say repeat it back 3 times in the conversation. So if you're talking to Rifki Cohn, you say, Rifki Cohn, Rifki, where do you live? Oh, it's so nice to meet you, Rifki, as you have this whole conversation. And then you say, at the end, it's very important when you say goodbye to say the name again. First of all, you're repeating it. Second of all, you're hearing yourself say it. Those of you who have heard my TEAS webinar, TEAS, the webinar about focus and concentration, the S, I'll remind you, is senses. So when you're saying it out loud, you're hearing yourself say it. You're using your senses. The more senses you use to encode the memory, the better it's in there. That's a whole nother webinar. Some of you might have heard that. I did that live in Lakewood 3 times maybe I'll come back at some point in the near future and do it again at some of the other places. But yes, Chaya, the reason that works is because you're using your senses, you're hearing yourself, and you're repeating it in the same conversation. That is the first step of the technique. It's very powerful. So there's more to the technique after that, but the first step is repeating it back to the person in the conversation a few times, and that does help for a lot of names. And that's easy before you get to any other fancy association or anything. Thank you, Chaya. That's very helpful for names. Okay. I'm just going to talk for a minute about my course. If anyone is really interested in, anyone who's really interested in improving their memory in a serious way, I'm just going to share my screen for 1 second. This one. So upcoming, it's called the Memory Matters Signature Course. It's 2 parts. Part 1 is all the techniques for names, numbers, and lists of items, and a large amount of information. We talk about how memory works, why memory doesn't work. That's 10 sessions. We're starting December 14th. That's before Hanukkah. Part 2 will be after that. Part 2 is 4 sessions, and it's the lifestyle factors that I mentioned before: diet, exercise, social stimulation, cognitive stimulation. It's a lot of research that I bring in a very cohesive way. And I bring on 2 expert interviews, a doctor, an anti-aging doctor, and a personal trainer. And you can do part 1 or part 2. You don't have to do it all. And I have taught this course twice on Zoom. I've taught it many times live here in Israel. I put it on Zoom a few years ago, and over COVID taught it to people in 3 different countries have joined me on my course. I've had people in more than 3 countries join my webinars, but for the course, I had people in 3 countries. So we're starting again. Part 1 is December 14th. Part 2 is after that. It will be like after the 10 sessions, we'll do the 4 sessions of part 2. And this is very helpful in giving you all the techniques that you really need. I've had amazing people have really, they've thanked me. They've done it. They felt so much better about everything. It gave them all the tools and empowerment that they needed to really believe in their memory, even when they were having real memory issues. So the course is not for someone with a diagnosis of dementia because it's just too much information. If you know someone that could use memory stimulation that has dementia, I'm happy to work with them one-on-one. But the course is for people that either are suffering with, slight memory loss or are worried about their memories. This really gives you an amazing toolbox of techniques and tools. So the page to check out more information about that, I will put in the chat right now. You're also going to get the link in with the replay email, I believe. Yeah. Kowski.com. I'm putting the link in the, you can also go to my website, renadekowski.com. There's the link, renadekowski.com. It's on the main page, or you can go to renadekowski.com/signature course, and that you can see all the information, everything that's included in the course. I'm super excited about this course because I see that it really helps people. I'm going to tell you one story before I go on to the brain exercise. I recently did one of my programs, and one of my ladies who had done my full course was with me on the program. And she asked me to stay afterwards so she could tell me this, that she was suffering with long COVID, and she had done my course before she had COVID, and she was having a lot of issues with brain fog and memory recall. So she went to a very big, famous long COVID clinic, and they were doing testing. They were doing a lot of memory testing to see what was going on, how they could help her. And the speech therapist that was doing the testing gave her a list of items to remember. And she was able to do it like this. And the speech therapist said, that was too easy for you. How did you do that? Because most people cannot do it like that. And she said, well, I took this memory course. And she was thrilled that all those techniques came back to her. She had done the course like more than a year ago. And the techniques came right back to her. In fact, she said to me, I went into Rena Yudkowsky mode. I said, really? What's that? I never heard of that before. So I went into Rena Yudkowsky mode, and I just remembered all the techniques you taught. And the speech therapist was wowed that she could remember it. So I said to her, I was so happy for her that she had that sense of like control over her memory, which is so important, especially when you're suffering with something like long COVID. And I also felt happy that, that I could help her. So I'm very grateful for that. And she just told me this recently. Anyway, if you go onto the sales page that the what I just put in the chat. You'll see more testimonials. You'll see a video that I have there. Check it out. If you or anyone you know could benefit from it, just send them my way and I'm happy to help. Okay, a brain exercise, a really fun brain exercise. Ready for this one? Okay, I learned this from a lady whose name is Marissa Payne. Marissa does a program called Ageless Grace, and it's a series of 21 exercises. They're physical exercises that you sit in a chair and do, but they're good for the brain. So obviously I didn't learn all of them, but we did a webinar together. Actually, I interviewed her in my Facebook group, and then she interviewed me to her audience, and I talked about focus and concentration. So this is, okay, you could do this with two different body parts. So first we'll do with our nose. You're going to take your nose and you're going to draw a word in the air with your nose. So like, it's easy to do with your finger. Let's say I'm going to draw the word hello with my finger. So that's very easy to do in the air, right? But now do it with your nose. Okay, this is going to look really weird on camera, but we're recording this anyway, okay? I'm going to take my nose and I'm going to draw the word hello. I'm doing it in script with my nose. That looks really funny on camera. Like, what is she doing, right? Okay, take your nose. Now, why? Okay, it's hard to talk and do this at the same time. Basically, you're doing something physical, but you're using your brain. And you're using your brain in a way that you usually do not use it, right? We never do that with our nose. So you're using your body and your brain in a different way. And it sort of just like makes new connections. You sort of feel your brain working, right? Now you could also do it with your elbow. Take your elbow and write a word. I'm doing hello in the air. That's a little easier. For some reason, that's a little easier than the nose. I'm not sure why. But again, also, if you notice, I'm crossing over the middle of my body. Anything that crosses over the midline works your brain, okay? And then you could also do it with your knee, which you're not gonna be able to see me do because I'm too close to my camera. I can't move back. But you could take your knee and do the same thing with your knee. So again, you're working out your body, but it's also working your brain. So whether you use your nose, your elbow, or your knee, this is a very fun way to just work. You're moving your body and you're sitting in a chair. Don't do it while standing because I don't want you to fall. I mean, your nose you could do while standing, but your knee don't do while standing if you don't have a balance problem. So all these exercises, you sit in the chair and you're just using your brain in a different way. It uses different parts of the brain than you're used to, and it creates new connections in the brain, and it's fun. Okay, so most of you don't have your cameras on, so we can't see you doing this, which is okay. And you can also try this later. And you could try different words. Like I just picked hello, but you can try your name. You take your nose and write with your nose, write your name in the air. It's very fun. It's very cool. Yeah, there you go. I see Nami doing it. There you go. Good. Nami, you feel your brain working? You're muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I don't know. I'll have to do it somewhere on my own and figure out. I mean, I trust you if you say it works my brain, that it works my brain.
It makes different connections in the brain because you're not used to doing it. And also anything that crosses over the midline, anything that uses two sides of your body is good for your brain. So if you take your right elbow to your left knee or your left elbow to your right knee, those are all exercises where you're using both sides of your body are going to work both sides of your brain. So that's also why it's very good. Okay, I would like to take questions. Does anyone have questions? Anything that we said today or anything else about memory? This is open time to ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable talking, you can put it in the chat. If you also, if you have a question that you want to ask me personally, feel free to email me. It's rena@renayudkowski.com. I will put that in the chat as well. rena@renayudkowski.com. Feel free to send an email, and I'm also happy to offer. That's my email. I'm also happy to offer a 15-minute free consultation on the phone if someone has a memory concern that they want to talk to me about privately. And then I would tell you what I would recommend if any of my programs are good for you, or if I would send you to a doctor if it's something more serious going on. So my email is rena@renayudkowski.com. Okay, questions? Any questions?
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, Haya.
Yeah. So what age would you say that your memory starts fading out?
Totally subjective. There is no age. For some people at 55 tell me their memory's going. And there's a lot of reasons that could be. And then
well, I just turned 50. I turned 53.
Yeah.
Like I called a friend. I said, "You remember what's the neighbor? What's her mother's name?" So she said, "Chaya." I can't remember either. I mean, I felt good. At least she didn't either remember.
Right.
All right.
So I'll tell you, people in their 50s start to complain about their memory. There's a lot of reasons for that. One is sleep. Are you sleeping well? People at that age start not
enough.
Right.
I mean, I have 6 kids. I'll also say like 4 different kids' names until I get to the right one. But I found that a lot of people do that.
So that's okay. And I want to answer that as well. So first of all, sleep, hormones. There's so many different factors go into how our memory works. Vitamin deficiency. Many things affect our memory. And I do talk about these different variables. Food, what are you eating? Are you feeding your brain well? Sleep is a huge piece, which is why a lot of us have a hard time sleeping as we get older. And then all of a sudden, oh gosh, our brain's not working well. Gee, there's a connection there. Vitamin B deficiency, estrogen deficiency. Estrogen is responsible for 400 functions in the body, including memory. So there's so many different factors. Speak to your doctor about it. Like if it's concerning you, speak to your doctor. And because a lot of these things we can do something about. If it's a vitamin B deficiency, we can take vitamin B. Sleep and you're not sleeping, there's lots of issues, lots of different things you could do for sleep. I've been trying some of them myself. And then about the name.
Like too much. It's like there's too much in your head. I mean, I think so. Educational overload, intellectual overload. I don't know.
Sure. Overstimulation, overload, trying to do too many things at once. Some people at your stage, you probably have some big kids. You might still have some little kids. You might be working. Like you have a lot going on and you're trying
and my mother, you have a lot of stuff.
Sandwich generation. Yeah. A lot of responsibilities. That's where self-care comes in. This is why it's so important to take really good care of yourself so that you don't deteriorate, including your brain. So lots of factors. I cannot even answer that al regel achas, but I do want to answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's certain things that I'll remember. I'll remember a phone number or who, and then there's certain things where like the name of the song is on the tip of my tongue, or where did I meet that person, or what was her like. Yes. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know.
So a lot of that is normal. And we don't necessarily have to expect ourselves to remember everything, but there are techniques that are helpful in remembering a lot and things that are important to us. To answer your question about saying all your kids' names. So that came up years ago when I was teaching this course and I was like, oh my gosh, everyone does this. Everyone goes through their kids to get the right name. And I decided it is not a memory issue because we all know our kids' names, right? It's not a memory issue. I really just think we are not stopping, slowing down and paying attention to what we're saying. So I'm calling this one, that one, and that one. But if I would just stop for a second and think who I'm talking about, I would get it. But we're operating too fast. We're not breathing enough. We're not getting enough oxygen to our brain. We're not thinking. We're not focusing. We're not concentrating on what we're doing because it's not a memory issue. I know my kids' names, right? So, but it's a funny thing, Chaya, because we all do it.
Yeah, I saw a cute little quip, these like quotes. They go, I like the people who can remember their childhood phone number, like from 40 years ago, but can't remember the password that they created 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Which is true.
Exactly. Okay, I see there are 2 questions in the chat. I'm going to answer these. We're going to list worrisome symptoms. I can. Okay, the difference between normal and abnormal. So it is normal to misplace your keys sometimes, like once in a while, or even once a day. But it is not normal to pick up your keys and say, what do I do with these? Or it's normal to forget part of an experience. Like, what did I wear to that wedding last week? I can't remember what I wore. That's normal. It's not normal to forget the whole experience. Like, I don't remember that I went to the wedding. Hear the difference? It's normal to remember. It is normal to forget. Once in a while, you're daydreaming while you're driving and you just pass the exit, right? You just like go right past the exit that you're driving and you don't take the right exit home. So it's normal to drive past an exit and daydream while you're driving once in a while. It is not normal to not remember which exit to take or not be able to get home. Like if you are lost and you can't remember where you are, or you're confused about or disoriented at your surroundings, that is more worrisome. Again, it's really about how prevalent it is and how much it affects your daily living. So a lot of people forget where they put their keys and they're fine. But if you're forgetting where you put your keys so much that you can't get to the doctor's appointment on time, then that's more worrisome. So ask yourself, how prevalent is it? Are other people noticing? And is it affecting your independence? If you cannot function because you cannot remember that you turned off the stove, or remember that you locked the door, or remember where you put your keys, then that is more problematic. Or if you're becoming less capable of doing things for yourself, less independent. If you know what I tell people is, if you're worried, just go get it checked out, go get a memory assessment, because it's always helpful. The doctors are really pushing for early detection and prevention, because again, if let's say it's not dementia and it's a vitamin B deficiency, well, that's fixable. Let's say it's depression. I had a case, a woman was really concerned about her memory. She really thought she was losing it. It was depression. She got diagnosed with depression. Depression is treatable, but the symptoms of depression and dementia oftentimes overlap. And, but in that case, she got on antidepressants, she went for therapy, she started exercising more. That was a result of COVID, unfortunately. Okay, next question. What's the name of the program with Marissa? Marissa's last name is Payne, Payne. Marissa Payne is called Ageless Grace. You could look it up online. Marissa's not the founder of it, but she is one of the trainers. And they train people to do these exercises with people with dementia. Even a caregiver could be trained to do it. Just a bunch of exercises. It's called Marissa Payne, Payne. She's out west, and she does some trainings online, and she's great. She's on Facebook and LinkedIn, if any of you are on Facebook or LinkedIn. Okay, when you gave the wedding example, you said it's last week's wedding. How about a year ago, 5 years? Okay, so if you can remember what you wore to a wedding 5 years ago, then my hat's off to you. Then you have no problems. If you cannot, I guess the question is, if you don't remember that you went to a wedding 5 years ago, is that a problem? This is very subjective. It's really very subjective. The bottom line to ask yourself with memory issues is it affecting my daily functioning? Am I not functioning independently because I can't remember so many things? So it's really subjective. So it's really hard to answer that. But that's the underlying. Now, there are a lot, like I was saying, there are a lot of causes for memory loss, from infections to vitamin B deficiency, to depression, to hormonal stuff, to bad food, eating not clean food. There's so many causes that it is hard to know what's normal, what's not sometimes. But that's why we have memory assessments and doctors that specialize in this. And if you're going to go to someone that is a geriatric doctor, or that is a neurologist and that has experience with this, because you don't want someone to diagnose you with dementia, God forbid, if it's something else. And you don't want someone to just blow off your concerns if it is something more serious. So a good doctor is really important here. Okay, any other questions? Okay, one more brain exercise. I'll leave you with one more brain exercise. Ready? This one's also fun and a little more challenging perhaps than the other one. So put both your hands out in front of you, palms down. Can you see? Wait, I got to get in the camera right. Okay, put your hands out in front of you, palms down. Okay, one hand, you're going to turn up and down at this pace. Okay, that's easy, right? Everyone could do that. Okay. The other hand is going to go slower. So you're going to do one hand, 1, 2, 1, 2, and the other one's going to go.
Do you do it standing or sitting?
Either way, you could be standing or sitting. It doesn't matter. Your hands are stretched out in front of you with your palms down. One hand is turning over and back at this rate, and the other one is going slower. So one hand's doing 1, 2, 1, 2, and one is going 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's a little hard to see what I'm doing. It's also very hard to talk. So I'm going to be quiet so I can do this. Hold on. Okay, I got it. When you got it, you'll feel you got it. It takes practice. Keep trying that. Now, for those of you that do not have your cameras on, we can't see you, but you can put in your comments, put in the chat box if you got it. I'm going to give you another minute to do that. Okay, those of you that do not have your cameras on, Try it for another minute and then put in the chat box whether you got it or not. It could take more than a minute to get. It's okay. Okay, let's see. Yes, it's like pat your head and rub your tummy. Remember that exercise where you have to pat your head and rub your tummy? That's also using both sides of your brain. Yeah, you got it. Yes, it is like that. It's hard to coordinate. Okay, Hadassah, keep at it. Keep trying. You will get it. Keep trying.
I'm not sure exactly what we're doing.
Both hands are extended out, palms down. You're going to be turning them over, but one hand is doing it at double the pace of the other.
That's what I thought. I can't get it.
Keep trying. It takes a little coordination. You can keep trying. You'll feel your brain working. It's a brain exercise. Anyone who has their camera off, you want to turn on your camera and show us?
No.
Okay. Someone wrote, got it, kind of, but then I tried switching hands, doing the other hand fast, and it was really hard. Right. Good idea. If you got it with, let's say you were doing your right hand faster than your left, and you got that, then try to switch. That is challenging. That really creates new neuronal pathways to switch like that. Like I automatically was doing my more dominant hand, my right hand, I'm doing faster, right? That was automatic. But now, oh yeah, that's really hard to switch. Oh, there you go. I feel my brain working. Good idea. So if you master it with one hand, like with your dominant hand going faster, and then switch and see what that feels like. Good point. It's much harder. Okay, those are fun brain exercises you can do anywhere for a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there, and it's sort of like makes your brain really work hard. And it's in a way that you're not used to doing it. So it's using your body, and the same thing with your nose and writing in the air. It's using your body that stimulates the brain in a way that perhaps you're not used to doing that. Okay, any other questions? So again, you're all invited to Wednesday. We're doing lists. You will be getting the link to that Zoom in the replay email that you're getting of this tomorrow. Tomorrow, you're going to get a replay link. In that email at the bottom, it says the Zoom link to Wednesday's free webinar on lists. It's going to be really fun. Join me. In that email as well is a link to check out my course page where you can see more information about the upcoming course. If you have any questions, email me. I'm also happy to hop on a call if you're not sure if the course is good for you or appropriate for you. I'm happy to hop on a call. And if you have any questions about memory, feel free to email me, and I do personally answer all my emails. So I want to thank you for joining, and thank you to Pessy and Leisure Chateau for sponsoring this lecture. I hope you learned something. I hope you now have something to jumpstart your memory. You have the Abracadabra. You have something that is going to change the way you look at how you remember. The next time you find yourself saying, I am not good at names, stop yourself, catch yourself, and hear my voice saying, I can change the script. I can realign this mantra. There can be a different mantra going through my head so that I really can remember better because you believe in yourself that you can. It's very powerful. Okay, any questions? Last questions, last chance to ask questions. Comments, questions. Okay, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day, and I hope I'll see you Wednesday for remembering lists. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much, Rena. That was
You're
great.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Have a good day.
You too.